Everyone, I welcome you all on the day. So now we have very interesting topic for discussion by Dr. Rama Rao sir from Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology on teaching research resource geospatial data and tools for zero budget research. And I would like to bring into attention of all the audience that sir has a wide experience and expertise in this field of remote sensing with specialization in hyperspectral data, LiDAR data, and other remote sensing open resource data. Sir, I welcome and invite you to speak and address the gathering.
Thank you, Jayati. Right. So, welcome back, all participants. So, today it is going to be shorter. Okay. So, let us see. Right. Now, yes. Okay. Wondering, this is something about a hybridization of some sort of resources and also some kind of indications or directions to, improve upon our way of doing the things in as far as research is concerned. Uh, we all want to do research for the two reasons. One is that, we just want to do something which is interesting to us, something which we just want to do. Other thing that we like to do is that we like to do because our profession demands it. If we want to be in the profession to be growing, we need to do something. Okay, and we all know that there are two things in that particular something. The first something is that, okay, from institutional perspective, they all want, let's say, good projects, external funding, right? Money, lot of money to the institutions, and that is something for the institute. Then, what is something for the faculty, and for that matter, a person? Because that something is achieved only when you have something to do. So we all want some kind of research work, and that could be credit in the form of, let us say, publications and other kind of research achievements that we call. So when we like to do certain research, which could be the case for, let us say, the first level of publication kind of research, and the second kind of research is that the research which supports us to bring funding. Okay, so because whenever there is a competition for the grants, those who have the background which is supporting to that particular proposal, which particularly highlights their particular expertise, would be preferred. So we know that we won't get fund just like that unless otherwise we show something that we are relevant in that and we have something expertise in that. So two different things are there. The second thing comes from institutional research funding only when we achieve the first thing. So if we have something to do something, bring it in the form of publications, and do some kind of expertise so that we are familiar with the kind of workings that we need to do, then this is the basic step that we are going to for the second step of funded research. So when that is the motivation that everybody is well aware of, the question comes is that we often tend to say that, okay, you see, there is no budget for us. So the easiest way of, let's say, shrugging ourselves, or we can say, not criticizing, but just generalizing the tendency in many cases. We know that there are many people who have been doing extremely research, good quality, but just for the sake of assuming that we tend to think what we have been doing. So if that is the case, we often equate doing research with access to funding. So that way we say that our research is budget. No budget, no research, right? So that is the general way of looking at it. So if we like to have research shown, we first ask either institute or department or even funding agencies, show us some source of budget that you gave us. You did not give anything and you're asking us to show something research output. How do you expect that we produce something without having any resource given to us? Okay, so that is the common perception. It's not, I'm not saying that true or false, that is the perception. Okay, We'll come back to this thing, how this can be answered in some way, which can be a starting point for us, or some of us have been doing as well. Okay. Now, what should we be doing? If we look at the way that trend at the national level and where India stands against other countries, which are comparable in some respect, if you look at it, the articles that are published, these are all articles which are in the ISI Web of Science, okay, which are accredited journals that we call. Okay, you know that in 2016, China was almost, let us say, closer to US in a little bit upper hand, and we stood number 3. Okay, 1,10,000 articles. Just 2 years down the line, right? USA has got 422, it's almost stagnated, if not a bit of insignificant reduction. China has taken over. If you see, about 25% of outcome is now much more higher than US even just 2 years before, right? And that increase of China's production during last 2 years, 2016 to 18, that increase is equal to our full strength, not even our full strength. We have got 110 and our score is 135, though the present. So our entire outcome is equal to their change over a period of 2 years, right? Why it is important as we'll have to consider. And you see the way the other countries stand. Germany, which is equal to one state level in our India by population or by geography, right? And other countries which are as small as even few districts, you can find it where we stand. So that is one metric as the, let's say, global level. Other thing that is interesting to also find it is that why those countries have been making significant changes or you can increase in the articles. One is that we tend to think that there are many people who are doing great research, or you can say more people in the sense many are publishing. That can be only partial answer. The partial full answer is that actually, if you see, it is the increase of collaborations, collaborative papers. If you see the count of papers which have been produced by different countries and how they have been produced, are they doing their own alone in the sense everybody is writing its own paper, maybe their institute within the country, or are they doing really something which they are only sharing? Right? So if we look at some of the statistics, they say that the trend is collaborative. Greatest increases are happening not because of the absolute increase in the number of researchers who are producing, but the number of researchers who are trying to diversify in terms of their collaborators. So that way what happens is that the greatest collaboration has been happening. That is the factor that actually been contributing to the highest score as well as.
Sir, you are in your home, sir?
No.
Yes. Very nice.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, it's very nice, sir. House is very nice.
Mr. Kati, I'm not muted. Okay. Right. So if you see this, that is actually collaboration effect, right? And these are the statistics which say that there has been growing collaboration within in the country level that you call domestic, as well as the number of collaborations which are international. So if you see many papers, they have got collaborators at international addresses, which show that the countries have been enhancing their scientific outcome by collaborations. Okay. And if you see this, it is a trend that is going on. If you translate that collaborations into co-authors for publication, as you can see, the trend is really very interesting. On an average, the present case of authorship has increased from about 3.8 per publication to 6.4 authors per publication. That means you can see that most of the journals are now, articles are produced with multiple authors and the multiple authors from different countries as well and different institutions within the domestic country. So you find that that's a trend that is going on and that can be explained to the some of the highest increases in terms of absolute number of articles at a country level, let's say global different countries. Now, if we like to assess the scenario to our Indian thing, where we stand, if we stand to say that what is our number of co-authors, the latest is that in India, you have got 2.8 in terms of domestic and international collaborations, 1.9. Which shows that we have not been, let us say, locking. We have not been collaborating in some respect, or we need to find that we have a lot of scope to do that, right? And also 2.9 within the country is much less to the global level of collaboration, which was the past, right? Which shows that there is a tendency that we have been more of central, we have been more of, let us say, conservative in terms of our research. Shows that we have been not that much aggressive in terms of putting other people's into work and maybe opening our arms to find out new ways to do different things, right? Now, if we like to increase some of these metrics, which obviously requires us that we have our articles produced, right? And if you look at the national level, our country, how many number of publications that have come? 135 number of publications last year. Okay. Now, if you distribute that across the faculty, there are 5,000 engineering colleges in India and about 1,000 other universities. It could be central, state, and a few deemed universities, and also some other private universities. So, if you put a safe number of, let us say, 5 to 6 lakh faculty, we assume that on an average 80 to 90 faculty members for each institute. Okay. Now you have got about 6,000, let's say 6 lakh faculty members. And when you translate that into the number of publications, we have 135. So you find that it is only 1/5. Okay. That means only 1 in 5 faculty is producing one article per year. Right? So that is the outcome that we have got. Now, if you have that kind of statistics where we say that our number of articles produced on an average at national level is less than 0.2 per faculty per year. Okay. So it is not even half article per year per faculty. So we have got a fraction, right? So how to make it? So what are the venues that we can do? Obviously, our question is that, okay, we require a lot of budget. Right, that is an asymmetry. There are budgets which are extremely good for many. There are budgets which are nothing for many. In the sense, there are people who could not have any of these things, and there are people who have much of the thing. And if you like to translate that budget into a kind of denomination which do not qualify itself to be calling budget in terms of money, we can put that kind of terms into 3 factors. One is time budget, human power, and the third is resources. So these are the 3 things which have got some common things across, that we take about the money. So if you exclude the part of money, other 3 important things that make up for any research is this kind of budget: time, human power, and resource. Again, we say that, so human power that comes at a cost. Okay, that could be case, that could not be case. We will see where that comes. Okay. Now, resources. We will see all these things and how we can actually make certain kind of research which do not require the monetary budget, but a budgeting of some of the things which would be available to many in different forms. Now, we start with actually resources. Okay, I'm just making ulta up to bottom up. We have got resources which which could be in the form of computing, very high power computing. It could access to good quality computers, or even stream processing, cloud processing, or really a lot of many things. We know that these days a lot of these data are really voluminous, such that our simple laptops and traditional desktops won't do. We know that. So when you call that computing an important resource, which makes a difference in terms of research. And other thing that we often find it to fail to manage the data. So you have got a wide variety of questions regarding the data. what data, where do we get, how to get, how much we get, whether you get it or not, if it's free or science, who is going to get, all such kind of things comes under this data. And the third thing is that instruments. There are some researches which require instruments. If you like to do some research, which need to be using some sort of equipment, it cannot be simply done only with computing and data. So you need to get some kind of data which you need to do on the go, or maybe on the real time that you like to do, right? So these are the three kinds of resources that we always tend to think, and you could say that because we do not have resources, we have a problem of doing research. Okay, we will see where this comes. And another problem we also find is manpower. Say we have no staff, there are no JRFs, no SRFs, okay, no project staff, because all these staff need to be funded, right? If there is no funding, we don't get this kind of terminology that we call staff, right? Regular, there should be there at least some technician, some office staff, okay, some lab staff, right? So those kind of things have to be there. And then we have got another way. How do we realize that we all have been sitting on the resource of education institution? If at least, if not all, at least many of us have been part of some sort of education institution, academic setup, right? Where students are the normal. You find some students available at all the time. Name differs, okay, year differs, but we find that they are there, right? So we tend to think what is the status of having this human powers problem solved with this kind of scenario, right? And then if you put all these kind of things, our problems are plenty. So no manpower, okay, and no resources and budget, money. As I mentioned, money is always a luxury. Only maybe few selected institutions get access to all these funding resources, and the remaining 90% the institutions like us will be always only craving for it, only finding it disappointed every time. But if you look at it, in fact, all these resources are there in some form. If not immediately before us in our institute, they are there in some form in other institutions. If we realize that I need this resource, that's true that it may not be there with us, but it's there with someone else. And that someone else has not been even bothered to use it, right? And you see, data. We have plenty of data. In fact, the biggest problem these days is not the data, it's a few people. Extremely large volumes of data have been built and they have been building up, piling up, right? And they are there in different forms, different places. Only thing is that we need to realize that it is there. We need to come out of our perception that data are not there. We find that there are no data with us, right? But it has been there with someone else. And that someone else is also having that they don't need that, right? So we have to find. And instruments, we don't have access to those instruments, right? They are expensive. But there have been extremely large number of programs which resulted in having these instruments applied to different institutions across India, where they are supposed to share with other academics. And if we are aware of this, then we have a right to actually hold these instruments for us. Nobody would be denying that, okay, it is our institute and our instrument, so nobody is going to be, handing on it. It is not the case. That was the past, right? Exclusive right over the instrument that are purchased with the public money. Now, it is the rather a cost to benefit ratio usage that defines the responsibility of the institute which is holding on to the instruments. Okay, we have a lot of resources which are distributed across India where we can actually able to make use of them without any money associated with it. Okay, and as I mentioned, we don't have regular supply of research power that we call no JRF, no SR, and product stuff. But if we realize we have got BTechs, we have got MTechs, and we have got few PhDs also, maybe part-time and full-time, right? And how many institutions could be without this kind of three sets of people, right? We know that there are many. But when we say, sir, these are not good, they are not be able to use it, will they hardly any relevant, they may not be suitable for us, right? That is a question, that's a concern. It's not okay, we all like that. But we will be knowing that there is a way that we can actually make use of different things if we know what we like to do, right? So you see the trend, the global trend, which is making foray into all these kind of issues where there is no resource, there is no time, no money, but you have got certain research outputs produced. That is, we'll see some of the aspects. And the first one is that, see, the widest used word in this world is not less COVID, or you can say lockdown, or you can say Bihar elections, right? So it is the network. The word is network, right? So widely used word is the network. So you tend to use all sorts of networks. And if you put the word a bifurcation, bisecting that, it is a network. Okay? So you just see what a fisherman does. He is having his net, casting the net, and he works to pull, right? He works to gather at an allowing certain time. So if you know that, if you like to have a net work done, so first you know, gather a net, cast it, and work that, right? So you are going to have your yield done. Exactly the fisherman. Fisherman is often going to depend on natural resources only. He is not going to cultivate a fish in the ocean, right? He is only networking, gathering. So there is no investment for him, right? Other than his own resource, human resource, his own resource. But can we not take the same cue from him? Say that we cast a wider net and we should be working on it, how to make a kind of gathering of all the resources such that we harvest it, right? So that is the one which is actually buzz in the present research terminology. If you see this, everything is a network. See all the cells in the human brain. Every cell is an independent, a weak body. Everything is weak, insignificant, a minuscule entity. Right? We all know that. And everybody does, every cell does a very minimal job. It's not significant. But the greatest strength of mind comes, the brain comes only when they're all actually networked. Every insignificant cell becomes a part of it. They communicate, they collaborate, and do the decision making. And where the decision making happening, nobody knows, right? But that is the entire network that is output. So if you put an analogy with this kind of analogy, you can actually take a wider benefit out of it and put that kind of network as academic research networks, right? So if you know how to form these research networks, how to form them, how to nurture them, how to harvest them, right? We may be insignificant and others are, right? But we all have been networked means you get to the power of your brain. A cell of ultra and small of only few nanometers or even much more can be a powerful in your brain network, right? Similarly similarly we too, right? If you know how to do it. So if you see that, if you have network doing, let us say a group of 8 people, close network, you can have a combination of let's say 28 pathways of information exchange. You increase your network, right, to a wider number of people and find it. So if you have got a network of about 14 to 15 people, you have got a path lines of 100 ways. So 100 different ways of information exchange. And each pathway is different and each pathway is connected to everyone, right? So can think of, we are one of the partners of the nodes in this kind of network where everyone is connected, everybody, and everyone has got certain kind of connection with it. So there is supply of some sort of information, right, from others. And you may not be directly connected to a particular node, but you are connected some way, right? So if you form this kind of networks that ensures us that you have got certain resources with you. If you think that you are some sort of cell in a network, that ensures you that you have got certain access to resources, even though you have not been actually bringing to them from the foray, right? So it is where actually the most important happening of the present research is academic research networking, which actually solves some of the problems of our lack of budget, lack of money, lack of resources, lack of human power, lack of time as well. Okay, we'll see. Actually, the concept that I generated is that we tend to think that we have been collaborating. I have a very strong collaboration with my supervisor, my past supervisor, my boss, or my friend, or my colleague, all that thing, right? And say that okay, I have got really a very tight network, very strong bonding. If you look that, actually your strong bonding will be only weak for your information. Strong bonding will never actually yield you the thing that you like to have in a different go. Information research required for in research is a fresh ideas, available resources, something that you have not come across. Those things won't come from your strong ground. Okay, so having a very strong ties with our network, which is very well knit, won't be producing the result that you tend to have in a research perspective. You need to have weak ties. Okay, weak ties means you will have a conversation, a certain kind of relationship that can develop at any place, even a tabletop, a coffee table, when you go to conference, when you go to certain meetings, you meet some people, you exchange certain kind of information then and there, and that becomes your weak tie, right? So when you have this kind of weak ties as your formation, which is the most important resource for you to get the resource that you don't expect otherwise from your strong ties? So we need to form certain kind of network where you have got multiples of these weak ties, okay, network, and those are networks who will be able to supply the resources that you require. And you get really unexpected kind of resources that from you get, right? So it is the way that strength of weak ties only make you strength of a strong research, not the strong ties with our colleagues will give you a strong research, okay? Now, this is a kind of tomorrow's network. I take this kind of pictures from another important research network called Alexander Humboldt Foundation. I think some of you have been aware of this. There is a German, very popular postdoctoral research. It's not only postdoctoral, it has really many things. A research network that you call Alexander Humboldt Foundation Research Network, which has got about some 30 to 35,000 research network, right? And they have been the promoting. This is the picture I had taken from their magazine recently, and the benefits of AutoConnect is what they actually found out by doing extensive research on this networking, their outcome, impact, and incidental they use it for this kind of outcome through again this artificial intelligence only, finding that unless otherwise have strong or weak ties in some form, you have got stagnation somewhere, right? So you need to tend to think that you need to networking. Many times we get for okay, this fellow he does not know. There is no use for this, or the students will not be having any skill that we require. We tend to think them. But if you see that every video is some kind of flower, right? So unless otherwise you go and see what is that, you tend to think that it is useless for you, right? So the famous quote that you all weeds are flowers. Weeds are flowers only until you know them that they're also a good flower, right? So you need to find out what sort of flower is that and how that can be useful to you. That's the thing that you need to introspect. And there is a thing. Now the present trend I mentioned that co-authors are important for you. Co-authors are important for you in two aspects. Co-authors of same organization is a burden, okay? Because you get to put them on different contexts, not necessary to be on your fair research contributions. But when you have got co-authors in your research, a report or any kind of thing, or collaborators, the present research on all the bibliometric analysis says that if there are multiple co-authors from different institutions, and if even much better if they are from different countries, the chance of acceptance journal is 60% higher compared to a journal article which was submitted with only 1 or 2 core people as from a single issue. So it shows that we need to connect. We need to form association with the different institutions, not from the same institute, and also maybe from different countries, which will not be knowing them, but we can actually have a weak tie. So these are some of the things which have been actually mined out of this database analysis of this all this research analysis. And if I have to put one again, this is an example from this Humboldt Foundation network image. They have found that every productive researcher is connected to someone else who is productive, who has been productive in different form. Okay, so if you like to find out some of these intricacies, it shows that these networks are formed not just because putting the name, but sharing the resources in different forms, right? So somebody has got access to a student, they have got master students or very nice BTech students, but they do not know what to do with them, right? So if somebody requires a student, he knows what he does, he knows what he wanted, he has excellent problem find, but he has no manpower, right? So there is no manpower there. Here manpower is there, but no, don't know what to do, right? Elsewhere, it could be that someone will be sitting on the gold mine of all the data and resources, instruments, but he would not be interested to do anything. They say that, okay, I'm enough. I'm going to retire in the next 5 days. Why should I worry about all these things? Right? So I have all these instruments, which I'm only custodian. So I don't know what to use that. Okay, I will go and come and like that. So there are resources. If you see, these networks have been defined such that there is a seamless integration of resource flow across these networks. And when the resource flow has been there, the resources in terms of staff, in terms of data, in terms of instruments, everyone has got some sort of benefit and which resulted in the production of a research outcome that you call first level of outcome, right? So it is imperative that we need to adopt this kind of strategies which would solve some of our problems. And in this particular context, I like to put, okay, I will within maybe next 5 to 10 minutes we'll freeze it, is that NIR, right? In remote sensing, there is nothing that is more important than NIR for us, right? We are all familiar, near infrared radiation. But if I had to put in a different way, right? We can see that we can have a different way of NIR, networking of independent researchers. So taking the global cues of all these collaborations and how they have been, flourishing, producing, enhancing, and all sorts of research outcomes, if we can have this kind of concept, network of independent researchers, that could solve some of our problems. How this works is that the aim of this NENR, I just coining this word. In fact, it is there on my website, in the sense on my personal profile, where I have proposed this kind of architecture, and I invite whosoever interested. Okay, explain all this concept is that the key aspect of this is actually two, because we have got extremely large number of, for example, I take the example, all right? We have got our laboratory, stocked with extremely good quality instruments. You call spectroradiometer, we have 3. You call imager, we have got. You have this got, everything we have got, right? But how much our usage? Say 5%, 10%, right? I won't say even that. So we have got extremely a lot of leisure time. Instruments have been actually sleeping, right? So what is the cost benefit for us to use a? I would not say that it is positive, right? So it is really suboptimal, I would say. So you need to have optimal utility. You need to actually reachability. Unless otherwise it is finding usage of someone, they are dead, right? You need to create value for the tools because somebody uses that, they enhances the value. Techniques, instrument. We have developed few techniques which I would be using and forgetting it. Publish and forget, right? But the techniques which we have developed, similarly, many people would be lying idle with them, right? That nobody uses because nobody is interested or this person has not shared with anybody. So you need to have different institutions of this optimal thing. And another most important thing of the NIR is that we need to help. It is not the word I prefer to say help. It is the person to ask anybody to give an opportunity for us to collaborate, to make something that we can do together, is the kind of thing that can be in the form of guidance that we can give if they require it. Ask, helping them to learn something right from beginning that you call hand-holding and mentoring. Many people, you have got certain research scholars or masters, they are there, but supervisor may be working in different areas. Students might be interested in something different, and they are really two poles that won't meeting. So student will be cursed to their fate, and similar researchers also cursed with their own fate. This is that students are doing something different, that they are not helping them the way that you wanted, right? So there is a problem. So some of those problems can be solved for a better if you know something. And it is not that you need to have formal relationship. You need to have a document saying that you are my co-supervisor or you are my former student, right? So these are not necessary to be thing. Not necessary to be of some sort of that I'll be working if my super agrees with you, right? So many things are there which are actually some of the solutions in this kind of NIR. And a key aspect of this one is that why we do it, who actually beneficiary, right? So the definition, as I say, is actually a seamless association of independent researchers and voluntary kind of association across disciplines, across age, across anything, right? Across country as well, across countries as well. Who benefit? In the network importance is that everyone is assured of certain resources. Certain resource in terms of data, can be instruments, can be even training or supervision resources, right? Everyone who is part of this NIR would be thinking that they have access to certain kind of resources which are at their own disposal. We should not be costing anything, right? And how that works is that once this network is formed and the people are connected to that, somebody who likes to propose something, he can actually propose some, he will putting thing, okay, I'm interested in, doing certain work on this thing. I have a student who likes to do work on, let us say, LiDAR modeling of a mine. Yeah, I don't know what is LiDAR, for example. Okay, then I will put that my students like to work on this LiDAR modeling of a mine, right? Mine, let's say all this ore mining. If that is the thing, I will put that idea in this network, and there will be people who would be aware of that, who would be expertise in that thing, having resources. They can respond and forms a team, which will be deciding then, okay, this is now the team, and we are going to form a kind of workable association. So once you have workable association, each one will be saying that I'm going to bring this thing, I'm going to supply instrument, I'm going to supply this technical expertise. Okay, now the things required are there. Now, what is our formal way? What is the thing that I'm going to get if I do this thing, right? It is where you are going to get a kind of benefit. So you will be crediting. The outcome that comes out of it will be credited across the team parsers in the proportionate way, in their way that they contributed. So in that way, everyone is going to get their things, resources, and skills used, and they are going to get some sort of outcome in different form. So it ensures that resources are used and research outcome is generated. So somebody is going to be co-author because of he shares some valuable resources. Someone is going to get his research done even though he does not have access to an instrument or data, right? So these are the ways which actually are the primary objectives of this NIR. And just going to the last few slides, we all have got a perpetual problem of say that we don't have data, method, courses. Now, if you see the contextual research and the publications, the way the journals have been evolving, it is actually the other way around. You have got to so much of data, coding, software, computing, everything is there, but only find the thing is that people are not there to actually harness them. So if you like to use any sort of research which is related to image processing, LiDAR processing, or even big data analytics on extremely high temporal data, hyperspectral LiDAR, high resolution data sets, all kind of thing, everything is actually tried by someone else, unless otherwise you are going to invent an original thing. Okay, if you say that I have to develop something which is not there, won't be there in the internet. But if you like to say that I like to do deep learning application on, let's say, fruits inspection using some kind of RGB camera, it is there, right? Only thing is that if you like to say for my village, for my home, may not be there. But if you like to take those kind of extremely localized thing, they are there. If you see the data, you find it, you ask it, it is there on the thing, on the net. If you just go by this GitHub, really extremely a lot of resources, and they all have been very well documented, how to implement them, what kind of resources they are there. You find it really they are there. You see this? Awesome. All sorts of resources are there, right? Anything. If you find it, you may find it everything. And it is not only that, it's not actually publication. It is the data, it is the code, okay? It is the documentation, how to run it, how to reproduce it, right? Also they are there, resources. And you find it a lot of the things. Extremely different kind of problems. So many, all sorts of research publications and research kind of arenas that we tend to do have been done by someone else, okay? Unless we are originally something different that we have not, nobody has thought, okay? Other than that, they are there. Now, you find many of the things. And apart from that, those research-based outcomes shared, you have got extremely open free resources. We tend to think that there is not much data. Name from high relevant satellite data from 4 meters until several hundreds of meters, you have got access to all these kind of resources. Just go and access the data, right? Data sets are there, even some of them could be downloadable. Many of them are actually, you need not even bother about downloading. You can readily do your analysis, provided you know what you want to do, right? They are extremely good quality of open resources, remote sensing data sets. And if you say there are not many software which are open source, I cannot buy all these things. Well, there are extremely good quality software which are open source, readily available and documented on this kind of open resources. If you go find this IEEE kind of thing, there are more than 70 research software, in the sense software, which you can do almost most of our technical geoinformatics level researches. They are easily shared, right? And in addition to that, the present trend is that every paper which is going to publish in a decent journal, they are actually asking the others to proactively upload their codes. Research is now demanding to be reproducible, retraceable. So journals are asking the others to upload their codes. And hence certain organizations have already come up with their code libraries. So every kind of research that is published has already got a code library. We can actually download it for the people who are, let's say, fresher in this thing. We can actually do a reverse engineering, understand the technique, understand the intricacies, and then go with our way. And if you like to have, we all know that Google Earth Engine is one of the very nice data sources of the cloud-based computing, which you can have all sorts of satellites, most of it, and a planetary data set. Another resource that you also find it actually is Amazon Amazon Web Sources. This is one thing which is akin to this Google Earth Engine with additional advantage of very nice computing. Google Earth has some problem in terms of your computation. It will be very slow if you like to have your study area large. You will be waiting for hours and days as well. This is one thing which is much more optimized in terms of the computing power, right? For research use, they do a lot of support. So we have got extremely good quality computing. We need not to be asking for a lot of high performance computers and lab with a lot of workstation. If you have got with you some sort of laptop or a normal desktop to access these kind of resources, you think that you have got a computer resources with you. And we all have been much more familiar with freely available DEMs, which are 10 meter from Kato, 30 meter from Rasta, everything. And I just wonder how many of you are already familiar with a freely resource global level DSM, digital surface model. There is one global level digital surface model also has been there. It is a SAR based model, the product generated by Japan and which is accessible for free. So you can now imagine the kind of resource potential that you can actually able to do with a 30-meter global level DSM and DEM as well. So many data sets are there. And Another important development is that many times we will not be knowing a certain methodology to do our research. There may be the cases that the thing that we like to do would have been done by somebody across somewhere. So if that is the case, a new sort of journal have come up with so many publishers where they are exclusively launching journals on only methods, they publish only on methods. And they publish journals only on data. Okay, so now the specialty of these things is that methods is some kind of journals. You have got few journals with different kind of publishers where for different kind of problems, what was the very detailed methodology which can be reproducible have been very well documented, and only the methodology will be the paper content, nothing else. So there won't be, let us say, some way abstract way of defining a methodology. A detailed way of methodology which can be reproducible to anybody have been there the content of most of the methods, and perhaps some of the things that we like to would have been there already in this kind of methodologies. We just have to search them, find it, and apply it. And another development as I mentioned is the data. So much of documentation has been come in terms of an exclusive
क्या हुआ
data.
क्या जो करा था
Yeah.
तो खोल क्यों दिया तूने बिना खोले के नहीं लगा सकते क्या ओके
So, lot of journals have been exclusive nowadays publishing the data. The beauty of this data is that data are published on a resource freely shareable platform. And the data are documented to such an extent that even the file name, folder name also mentioned in that. All the data, metadata, acquisition condition, everything. So you have got extremely good access to data set on a specialty mode thing. Then what actually we require? If we know how to do certain thing, if you have some data, certain computing, some people elsewhere, cannot we do something which we call research outcome? May not be a let's say funded project that comes later when you have a certain background with some good quality publications, right? To achieve this kind of publishable research is something we can do even without having access to a lot of money, right? For example, just to give you one routine example, it's not something like, it's great, but to just quote it, is that we are familiar with the spectral library. JPL, Aster has got lot of spectral libraries that we are all familiar with it, right? Just using the very same library, just trying to analyze the library, a paper has been produced. Trying to see how these libraries work in a searchable platform. So if you have got certain algorithms that you can implement in openly available software, for example, in this case, I did in R and partly in MATLAB, I exclusively used the just Aster spectral library, nothing else. No other data sets we use. That was only data set. Input is that one, output is also like that one, right? And no students are involved. Just we could complete the working part in 4 days and remaining 40 days for writing the paper, right? So if you know how to do something, in the sense, you have some idea how innovatively you can use the very same thing that is there in front of you, you are able to produce something which do not call for many things. The skills that we are familiar with very common can be a case for it, right? Like that. And the last one example is that this is another kind of, let's say, volunteer research. Volunteer research, all I mean that when you have nothing else to do, when you are fed bored of, right, you do something which can be a work for you to publish. Long back, we acquired some data set for BTech students for their project, okay, several years back. Student was happy that he got thesis with good grade, so that was over. The data were there and it was lying idle. Nobody was there to actually to use it, right? Including the people who collected it. And I was the one who also contributed, or can say, led that data collection drive. And it stood until that, right? Now, when you understood that you have got a data, can we use something which do not call for additional resources? So if you have certain ideas of statistics, certain kind of familiar with R and ideal simple geospatial technical tools that we tend everybody come across, the same data can be used in a different way, can be analyzed in a different way, right? Which is same data many people would have been collecting, right? So if you simply put a kind of discrimination as statistical discrimination, and use different techniques of it, compare it, and then validate the discrimination, that becomes a publishable resource, right? And this work actually, working part was done in 15 days. There were nearly 6 to 7 methods which I tried. Though the paper writing took more than, let's say, 8 months or 1 year, because you tend to write whenever you are fed up with other things. So one paragraph per month or one paragraph 3 weeks, okay, in between several pauses. So you took that much of time, but finally you have got to two things. And no students involved, no additional resources then, no other hiccups, and you did not spend your entire blocks of days for it. Whenever you fed up with other things, just to make a difference and like a boring distraction, you did something, that could be a case where you can actually publish it, right? So this is the outcome that you see, where we need not to be, let's say, looking out for other resources. They are with us. They have been before us. Only thing is that we just have to be making that we need to use some way. We need to be produce something which calls for no additional resources other than our own interest at certain time. So if we have this kind of tendencies, I'm sure that we will be producing much more research output than we think that we are going to be. And also we will be resourceful, that we will be accessing the resources across other institutions. So there won't be distraction of, let's say, depression or disappointment of lack of manpower, lack of instruments, lack of data, lack of techniques. So if we form some kind of network and have got certain things to ask them the way we like to access them, then we can do a research which do not require a monetary thing, but a truly zero money research that you call zero budget research, right? So we can actually do that one. So that's what I actually wanted to exchange, share with you, with you. If you have any questions, I will be happy to take it.
Sir, there is a question from Ashish Paul, sir. What are the freely available software for GIS and remote sensing?
I again mentioned that hundreds. You only have to ask, I like to say, I like to process this kind of data. Okay. Then you tell me what is the resource. Okay. That is important. If you want that a general GIS processing, you can even start from QGIS. Okay. If you say that I like to process, let us say, very high dimensional hyperspectral data, which I don't want to try the existing algorithms in NV or in ADAS Imagine or something, I should have something different, then tell me what is the resource. If you ask that kind of thing, there are hundreds. Okay, so like that, multi-spec, this spec, that, so many things are there. You only have to see what is the sub-domain within this broad geospatial thing. So for that, you have got a very specialized topic, in the sense software, which is very elaborate for that particular purpose and open source.
Do we have any more questions? Thank you, sir, for your session. That was very thought-provoking one. You briefly told about the resources and how we can exploit the available resources. Your words on using the academic research network, weak ties, voluntary research, and form workable association for our benefit have surely struck the chord of many. Sir, participants also mentioned, and I'm reading a few comments. Sir, you mentioned a very valid point, very informative session, useful session, great, sir, interesting session, excellent session, very inspiring talk. Thank you very much, sir. So we thank you for this wonderful lecture. I also express our gratitude to the audience for their valuable presence and questions they have put in this web program. So we'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. With more sessions and interesting lectures. I wish you all a very happy and good evening. Thank
Thank
you
you
all.
also. We'll see you tomorrow then. Okay. Thank you, Jayati.
Ji, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, also the participants have made a request of sharing your presentation with them.
Yeah, I can do that. I will.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
The participants are also requesting for recording of this session.
Yeah, I think it's recording. It's recorded.
Yes, sir.
Okay. See you then. See you all. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.